My name is Christy, and I am talking to you from the Connecticut Country Store in Coventry, Connecticut. And I'm going to talk to you today about making your homemade bread. This one is a rosemary bread, but you can make a white bread or you can add any herbs that you want to make your bread a little different. I use the Better Homes and Gardens new cookbook, which actually isn't new. It's 1996 copyright. The page I'm looking at may or may not look familiar if you have that kind of cookbook. First, I'm going to just tell you about the ingredients. We're going to use about 7 cups of flour, a package of active dry yeast, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons of bulk yeast if you're using bulk, 2 1/4 cups of milk or buttermilk, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of butter, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. The first thing I do is put a couple cups of flour in my KitchenAid mixer, and I add the appropriate amount of yeast to that, and I mix it up and put that aside. I then take the milk, put it in a pan, and put it on medium heat on the stove, and I'll put in my herbs, my butter, my sugar, and mix that all together. And once the butter starts to melt a little bit, when you see it starting to melt, that's when the milk is warm enough. Take it off the heat and then just stir it up until the butter completely melts. If you accidentally heat it too much, which I have before, and the butter's completely melted, you just need to give it time to cool off, or put it in a bath of cold water and stir it, and that'll cool off a little bit faster. You don't want it to be too hot because it'll kill the yeast. I then take that milk and slowly add it to my mixer with the flour and the yeast, and at this point I add the 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. I continue to mix that up, and it's a very kind of soupy mix. I then add the flour very slowly. You're going to add 4 to 5 cups, but you want to do it very slowly so it doesn't get lumpy. As you add, the way you're going to know that it's ready is it starts pulling away from the sides, and it's not sticky. You can see in this picture that it's still very sticky and it's sticking to my finger. That's not what you want to see. You want to be able to touch it and pull your finger away and have it not stick. And once you've done that, then you're ready to take it out of your bowl and put it on a board and start kneading it. Kneading basically involves folding the bread over and folding air pockets into that bread. And so you're going to push it down, fold it over, flip it, push it down, fold it over. You're going to want to flour the wooden cutting board so that it doesn't stick. And once you get it so it's a nice ball, you've kneaded it for quite a while, a couple minutes at least, maybe 4 minutes. When you get it into a nice ball, then you're going to want to let it rise for about 40 minutes to an hour. So what I do is I take my bowl that I used, I clean it out, just so I don't use too much stuff. I clean it out, and then I put shortening all in the inside of the bowl. And that way the bread doesn't stick as it rises, and it just makes it easier to clean for me, and it rises a little bit better. Once I put the bread in the bowl and it's ready to go, I will take a towel and wet it with hot water, and I will put that towel over the top of the bowl, and that just keeps the moisture in. At this point, there's a lot of different tricks you can do to keep the bowl a little bit warmer. Sometimes I turn on the oven to 100 and turn it off so that it stays a little bit warmer and it rises for me. Other times it's summertime, so I don't have to worry about putting it anywhere. It's warm in my kitchen. Another trick is I have a dehydrator, and so if I'm dehydrating some fruits, I usually make some bread at the same time because it's an easy way to keep things warm. After about 40 minutes to an hour, you're going to see that the dough has gotten quite a bit bigger. And there's a picture here of how much bigger that dough has gotten. At this point, you're going to punch it down, and basically you're going to take out all of that air that was produced in it. Once you punch it down and take it out of the bowl, you split it in 2 different sections, and then you're going to knead it again, and you're going to knead it in those 2 different sections. After you knead it, you want to cover it up with that wet towel again and let it sit for about 10 minutes to just calm itself down. Once your bread has had a chance to rest, you're ready to make a loaf. I've decided to make one braided loaf and one regular loaf. The regular loaf is pretty simple. You just flatten out the dough and roll it up like a cinnamon roll. Fold in the sides and put it in your loaf pan. Make sure that your loaf pan is lined with Crisco, and that'll help you to pop it out once it's ready. The other one I decided to make was a braid. So I took 3 pieces of dough and stretched them out to make them kind of like a big rope, and I braided it all together, tucked the ends in, and then I put it on a cookie sheet, and the cookie sheet underneath where the bread is, I put a little bit of Crisco to make sure that it wouldn't stick. I let that rise for about 40 to 50 minutes until it was a good size, and then I turned on the oven. So the oven is going to be 375 degrees, and you can put it in there with a pan of water underneath. And the reason you do this is just to keep the moisture so the crust doesn't get too hard. The full baking time is 40 minutes, but you always want to check it after 30 to make sure it's not getting too dark. The way you can tell whether your bread is done is by tapping the outside of it. If it makes a hollow sound, then it's ready to go and you can take it out. If it's not quite making the hollow sound, then check every 5 minutes until it's ready. You want to be really careful those last 10 minutes of baking to make sure you don't overdo it. I hope this is helpful to you, and if you have any questions, you can give me an email at chrissy@connecticutcountrystore.com. Thanks for listening.